Okay, good afternoon. We are thankful for Melissa Miller, Assistant Superintendent at Excelsior Springs, for being with us today to be the first in our Administrator Spotlight session. So we hope to have many more. If you're watching this call and you would like to be on the spotlight because you have something great happening in your district, we'd love to hear from you. Our goal for this type of spotlight is to just reach out to some of the great things we're seeing in schools across Missouri and letting them come on and share. So you don't have to go to a conference. You can have just a short little snippet of great learning. So with that, Melissa, I'll let you take it away.
So spoke with Shauna a little bit before she started, and I'm like, what do you want me to talk about? And she said that culture was the main focus. And so just the perfect thing kind of came to mind. So a little background about our district. I'm in Excelsior Springs. I'm the assistant superintendent, basically curriculum and instruction with a bunch of other things thrown in. So a little bit about my position is I've been in the district for 17 years, and I am the 7th person in this chair in 17 years, including the year that we had no one. So average life expectancy of someone in this role is 2 to 3 years, anywhere from 14 months to 3 years, depending on who is in here. So history of a lot of turnover, and I think that's negatively affected our culture like a lot. One thing that I saw, I was an instructional coach in the district. I've obviously been a teacher in the district, and I've been an administrator in the district before this. One of the things that I saw when you go into individual classrooms is that there are amazing things happening in classrooms, and no one but you has any idea that it's happening. So I remember saying that after 1 year of instructional coaching, just the fact that you're in that many classrooms, I could have been 10 times the teacher that I was before I was an instructional coach, just from seeing all of the great opportunities. So because of that experience, one of my incredible passions is making sure that teachers are in other teachers' classrooms. But when you look at a building's culture, like, I think one of the big setbacks for that is that education is like, your classroom is so personal to every teacher, and it's super vulnerable to open up your classroom, and it's scary for a lot of people. And also what I found was, like, my best teachers were the ones who definitely did not want anyone in their classroom. Like, they were the ones that were so self-conscious about what they were doing, and they lacked the confidence in it. And so I wanted to come up with a way on how to kind of get past that. So now in my role as an assistant superintendent, I get to force people to do whatever I want. So I took full advantage of that. And basically, this is what I did. So last year was my first year. This is my second year. And so what I did was I got all of my instructional coaches together, and I said, this is my vision for this, and this is what I want. I want you to start taking people on what I refer to as tiger walks, which is our mascot. And I just didn't have anyone sign up because, again, it was a culture thing. We were just coming off of COVID, and it was just completely flipping that right side up again. But the people that did do the tiger walks and would go into a classroom just to observe said that was fantastic, and they would want to do it again. So I knew if I could just change the culture to get them to do it once, that it would work out. So what I did was I printed off like little postcards, and I had our students do artwork for it. So I have, I don't know, 10 or 15 different designs of postcards. And so throughout the year, instructional coaches basically would say, hey, I'm getting ready to do a tiger walk on Thursday if anyone wants to join me. They would find teachers that were willing to open up their classrooms, which started out very small because, again, there's that intimidation factor. And so they would bring teachers in, and they were really primarily just looking for engagement, because that was something that we were really struggling with, is compliance versus engagement, which I think everyone kind of struggles with that a little bit. So they would walk into a classroom. Instructional coach would take 3 or 4 teachers. They would walk in. They would just kind of have a glimpse of what they were doing for 10 or 15 minutes, look at engagement, come back out. And the rule was they were only allowed to talk about positive things that they saw. And the instructional coach received training. Like, I literally went around and guided instructional coaches on how to specifically, basically I modeled what you do after it to make sure that it stays positive, and make sure. And I even did one where I started complaining about a teacher just to see what they would do. And they were all like dumbfounded. And I was like, don't let somebody do that. That was a test and you failed. So what we did was we made those cards and we created this system. So in this district, one thing that is super unique to us and is awesome is that we have professional development days. I think there's 7 or 8 in the calendar. And what we did was we took one professional development day and we did not put it on the calendar. So to wrap your head around that, what that means is that we have a flexible professional development day that we can use anytime outside of a school day. So they have an additional contract day that they're paid for to be used for professional development, but it's not on a calendar. So we refer to it as a flex day, and we've had it for years, but it hasn't been very used effectively because anyone could pick whatever they wanted to. So it was really just something that some people were using it in a quality way, and a lot of people weren't. It didn't have a lot of focus. So what I did this year is that I made it mandatory that in order to get that flex day learning, you could do 2 things, and I added a third, but the 2 things were you could be a part of a book study that was led by an instructional coach or an administrator or a PDC rep that were aligned and approved by me to make sure they were focused, or you could give up 4 plan times. That's a good deal because you give up 4 plan times and I'll pay you for 1 full day's pay if you did 4 tiger walks on 4 plan times. So I absolutely manipulated it to try to get people to start it because I made it such a good deal. Next year, I'll raise it to 6. But this year, if you just give up 4 plan times, and not only that, but I encourage them to go building to building and grade level to grade level. I'm really passionate about having my high school English teachers go to see how they teach reading in 1st and 2nd grade. I think that's incredibly important. So we've just had a lot of success with that. One story that I like to tell is I have my weightlifting coach, who I think was the guy who never was interested in professional development before. He's like a champion for tiger walks because in his weight room, he is like incredible at engagement and formative assessment. And so he opens up his classroom every time, or opens up his weight room so that people can come and watch how he does it. And so on those cards, it's a huge efficacy builder as well, because everybody gets these all this positive feedback for what they're seeing in their classrooms from their peers. So, and they're legit, genuine things about how they would implement things in their classroom. And so it's great. This guy who had nothing to do with professional development and really felt like he was the stand outside of, what we were doing in traditional PD. He's like super involved now and never misses an opportunity to it's really built his capacity as a leader, as an instructional leader in the building. And so that's been interesting to see. So just kind of wanted to share that. I don't know, Shauna, if you can think of any other questions or anything that somebody might be interested to learn about it. It's not something that I track this year. Like, I'm not looking for a number. I'm trying to move away from numbers and more towards actual conversations when it comes to feedback. So the last thing I would do is have somebody score anyone or associate a number with it at all. And then I actually started something new. What I'm finding is that we're having obviously more people that are wanting to be in classrooms and fewer people that are willing to open their classrooms. So we're seeing the same thing. So again, I like to manipulate a situation. So I made this really cool t-shirt design that basically has this inspirational teacher quote. It's got our logo on it and it looks really cool. And I'm going to start sending that to teachers that open up their classrooms. I'm not advertising it. I'm not saying, hey, if you do this, I'll give you a t-shirt. I'm just going to start dropping t-shirts on people who volunteer, and hopefully that to reward those risk takers in the district.
No, I think that's awesome. And so I'd like to open it up in just a minute for people who are on the call. But some key things I hear you saying, and then I'd written it down and then you said it, this idea of building collective efficacy. And I think there's such a vulnerability in general and insecurity with teachers. So it doesn't surprise me that people aren't wanting to open up, because you see that usually 2 ways of, oh, people are gonna think that I think I'm great, or
Yep.
Or the other time, which is more often, is I don't even know if I'm doing things that great. And so what's so amazing about the process you're doing, and I think a key thing is that you're keeping it positive. We're only, like with your weightlifting coach example, that way, because a lot of electives and specials are left, everyone can shine. But I know I've seen so many teachers when you can come in and tell them, no, you're doing it's old hat for them. They don't even realize the great things that they're doing. And just the power in, I think in education, we think, oh, we'll tell somebody about what we're doing. It doesn't work. People learn by seeing. And one other idea I'll just piggyback off, because I know sometimes just the logistics of getting people release time to walk around. And some of the other districts I've been using as well, we've even to look at programming and fidelity with programming, because I work with a district that's a K1 building, a 2-3, a 4-5, and they're using the same programming. We've been doing 10-minute snippet videos and letting them watch during their team meeting. So it's just a great leveraging point. We're not criticizing. We're just looking, oh, well, I didn't know they had an online part. Like it's a really safe way to show people great lessons and to have that vertical conversation of, well, that's every time we talk, we say we do it the same way. And now that we see this 5-minute video of each of us, oh, we don't. Because everybody thinks they're doing it the same way. And to really, so I think observations, or even making them in team meetings, say, hey, why don't you get up and show us for 2 minutes? They don't like that. They don't want to show what they're doing, but it's so powerful for people to see it. So I think that just so many great nuggets you shared. Tina or Seth, questions that you have or thoughts?
No, I don't have any questions. I have seen something similar in a school district that I worked at in Southeast Missouri, where they set it up like a bingo board. So like every time the teacher would go and do one of these walks, they would get to, there were basically either different teachers on the bingo board or different ideas of things to do. They would get to place their marker there. And then once they got one solid row across in either direction, they got to come to the office, like you're doing shirts. So they would do something like, I don't know, we had something called a dairy barn. So they'd get like a soda from the dairy barn or something like that. But it was hard to just get out there and do it. And I think I was just worried about people coming into my classroom. I was worried about me going to someone else's classroom and watching them and thinking that I don't want them to think that I'm there to say something mean, or so I think that was the hardest.
We had tried like just inviting people out. Like for years, even as an instructional coach, I would try to get teachers to come with me and be in other teachers' classrooms. It just wouldn't catch on. So like I said, I giggle, but I get to make people do things that I value now in this position. And that's one of the things where I'm like, you will do this. And it has made the biggest impact on efficacy. Like it really has. It's made people feel really good. And I think that it's brought the community together. Post COVID, I think we shut teachers in their own individual classrooms and shut the door. And so I think we have to be super intentional about encouraging them to open them, and it's okay to go back out there again. It's kind of a reteaching, relearning opportunity.
But using that position power, sometimes that's a key thing, right? Sometimes you just have to force the compliance for the good things to come. And I think, collaboration is always a really hard thing for people, again, because how do you just make somebody open up? But when they're able to see.
We have required 4, and we already have teachers that have done the 4 and are still going to them, which was my goal, is to see the value in it so we don't have to make you do it. And they still don't have to do this if they don't want to. They can still opt for a book study. And then my K3 teachers, every K3 teacher is doing letters training. And so they can use that for their flexible time too, because it's so heavy on outside work. But for the most part, like my secondary people love it because they are so content specific. There is no teacher out there. I teach social studies and I have to only see a social studies teacher to determine, to get anything from. And good instructional strategies are good instructional strategies. It doesn't matter what grade level they're in or what content area they're in. And so they're starting to see value in other people and walking in other people's classrooms. And that's really, really what I was going for and what I wanted.
Yeah, that's great. Tina, do you have any comments or questions?
I just wanted to clarify, Melissa, did you say, are you taking these walks with them, or are they now going on their own, or with a small group? How's that work, or who's kind of monitoring?
So instructional coaches are leading that right now. I would like to get them to a point where a professional development person can lead them as well. Right now, I think our PDC before really didn't have a professional development leadership component to it. And so I'm trying to kind of raise them up to be professional development leaders in the building. But we have principals come to different buildings. One thing that I'm doing, because I'm passionate about it, is I make principals swap buildings, not just elementary to elementary, but I make them take their whole team and switch buildings up so that they can see. I want my high school people to see what it's like to be an elementary kid here. I want my elementary principals to see what it's like. So it's not just teachers that I see the value in. I want a district perspective, as we're, one group of people working for one group of kids, K-12, not just at one grade level. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your time today. And I look forward, I know what may happen if people want to email you. Are you okay with them messaging you through this network? So we'll just
100%.
Yep. So if they have specific questions, they could answer it that way. So
Yep. 100%.
awesome. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.